Russia is the largest country in the world in terms of area. Its continent, Europe and Asia region, Eastern Europe, European Russia, Northern Asia, Siberia. Russia borders meet with 16 countries: Poland, Finland, Mongolia, North Korea, United States, Estonia, Ukraine, Latvia, Norway, Belarus, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, China, Lithuania, Japan. Geographers generally partition the huge domain of Russia into 5 regular zones: the tundra zone, the taiga, or backwoods, zone, the steppe, or fields, zone, the parched zone. What's more, the mountain zone. The historical backdrop of Russia is intricate and ranges a tremendous domain, incorporating different societies and verifiable periods. The historical backdrop of Russia starts with the narratives of the East Slavs. The customary beginning date of explicitly Russian history is the foundation of the Rus's state in the north in 862, administered by Varangians. By taking control of Kiev in 882, Prince Oleg of Novgorod brought the eastern Slavs' northern and southern lands under one authority. By the end of the 10th century, the center of governance had moved to Kiev, but the northern and southern regions continued to have a significant degree of autonomy from one another. The state took on Christianity from the Byzantine realm in 988, starting the combination of Byzantine and Slavic societies that characterized Russian culture for the following 1,000 years. Kievan Rus at last deteriorated as a state because of the Mongol intrusions in 1237 to 1240. Kievan Rus from the 9th to 13th centuries. The foundations of Russian history lie in the archaic territory of Kievan Rus, laid out in the 900 years. Kiev, the capital, turned into a middle for exchange and social trade. The reception of Christianity in 988 by ruler Vladimir I assumed a vital part in molding Russian culture. Mongol rule, 1315. In the 1300 years, Mongols attacked and exposed Kievan Rus to the brilliant crowd. During this time, Moscow established itself as a significant principality and gradually gained power. Ascent of Moscow. Moscow Grand Duchy, 14th to 16th centuries. Ivan III, the Incomparable, extended Moscow's region, testing Mongol rule. In the 16th century, Ivan IV, the Terrible, became the first Tsar of Russia. He centralized power and implemented reforms. Season of difficulties and the Romanov administration. Season of difficulties, 1750. A time of political disturbance set apart by dynastic battles and unfamiliar intrusions. Mikhail Romanov turned into the main Romanov Tsar in 1613, denoting the start of the Romanov line. Romanov tradition, 1720. Peter the Incomparable, ruled 1682-1725, modernized Russia, laid out St. Petersburg as the new capital, and extended the realm. Catherine the Incomparable, ruled 1762-1796, proceeded with regional extension and presented legitimate changes. Russian contribution in the Napoleonic conflicts and the Decembrist uprising in 1825 happened during the 19th 100 years. Social changes and industrialization. 1861's emancipation of the serfs. Alexander II annulled serfdom in 1861, liberating a huge number of laborers. Late 19th century social change and industrialization. Russia went through quick industrialization, prompting urbanization and social change. The progressive development picked up speed. Russian transformation and Soviet period. Russian insurgency, 1917. The February insurgency prompted the renouncement of Nicholas II, finishing the Romanov line. The Marxists, drove by Vladimir Lenin, held on to power in the October upheaval, laying out the Russian Soviet Federative Communist Republic, RSFSR. Russian nationwide conflict, 1918–1922. The Marxists confronted resistance from different groups, prompting an overwhelming nationwide conflict. The Red Armed Force, drove by Trotsky, arose successful, merging Trotskyite power. Development of the Soviet Association, 1922. The RSFSR got together with other Soviet republics to frame the Association of Soviet Communist Republics, USSR, under the administration of the Trotskyites. The Second Great War and the Virus War, the Second Great War, 1939–1945. The Soviet Association assumed an essential part in the loss of Nazi Germany. The conflict significantly affected the USSR, prompting regional additions. Cold Conflict, 1945–1991. The USSR arose as a superpower, participating in philosophical and international competition with the US. The Cuban rocket emergency, 1962, and the space race were striking occasions during this period. Disintegration of the Soviet Association, glasnost and perestroika in the 1980s. Soviet pioneer Mikhail Gorbachev presented changes, expecting to modernize the economy and increment political receptiveness. 1991's dissolution of the Soviet Union. The USSR imploded in 1991, prompting the freedom of a few previous Soviet republics, including the Russian League. Boris Yeltsin turned into the principal leader of the recently shaped Russian alliance. Russia after the Soviet Union, post-Soviet time, 1991-present. During the post-Soviet era, Russia experienced political and economic transitions. Vladimir Putin, chose president in 2000, has been a predominant player in Russian governmental issues, serving numerous terms as president and later as state head. Present-day difficulties. 21st century. Russia has been involved in tensions on a global scale, disputes over its territory, such as Crimea, and issues pertaining to democracy and human rights. With interests in a variety of geopolitical issues, the nation continues to be a significant global player. This outline gives an expansive comprehension of the critical occasions and improvements in Russian history. Remember that the historical backdrop of Russia is vast and rich.